Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another of our Inside Coach special webinars here with Beyond Pulse. Absolutely delighted today to be able to join, to join us a very dear friend of both mine and Mark's and the rest of Team Beyond Pulse, Mr. Josete Abarca, to the show. Josete, for obviously people that are less familiar with him and the work that he does, is joining us from sunny Spain, and it's actually in his evening obviously right now. So Josete, thank you so much, my friend, for sharing your time with us this evening where you are. Obviously we're going to dive in to your opinion on the transition from developing future professionals and the pathway from youth soccer into the professional game, and all the hurdles that people have to overcome on that journey, with obviously a little bit of your background. And I mentioned to people on Twitter, and obviously for the benefit of people that are listening now or later, you have a very unique background. Obviously, you are a former professional player yourself. You're now a professional coach, a licensed football agent. You have an MBA. You run a business. You're around soccer, football, day in, day out, and obviously have worked with and alongside a number of current and former professional players and coaches. So your insight is incredible. We're deeply appreciative of your time, and without any further ado, I think I'll turn it over to you, and obviously you can start to present on the little presentation that you've done for us. The only thing I would say is for those listening live now, players or coaches, if you have any questions, there's a Q&A box that you can, or a chat function, you can write a question in there, and myself or Mark can direct Josete's attention to that as we get going. So Josete, thank you, my man, and let's go.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be sharing my time with you guys and try to share ideas or point of views. So I'm gonna start a little bit. I'm gonna share a screen. Okay, I'm gonna start a little bit with what I have done until now in my life, and any questions that you have. But it's just to put everyone in place what I've been doing during all this time. Okay, I'm 29. I'm still young. I had to quit football because of a knee problem, and also that mentally I wasn't prepared, not just the knee. But I'm gonna explain it here. Are you able to watch my screen? Perfect. So I start a little bit. I grew up in Huesca. I was born in Zaragoza, but I grew up in Huesca, a small city of 55,000 people. I started playing young, like everyone, at more or less here in Spain at the age of 4. At 15, I went to Fulham. New experience for me. I grew up a lot as a person. It opened my eyes because I changed a village of 55,000 people to a city of, I think it is close to 12 million now, the whole London area.
Yep.
Huge change personally, and also to educate myself a little bit. I started to give more importance to language, to English in this case. I met very good people from different areas, so it helped me a lot. Okay, more than in football as well, but also in other parts of my life. Then I went to Lorca. At that time, Lorca was in second division. The first team coach, I was still in academy. The first team coach of Lorca was Unai Emery at that time. He was a player that that season started his first year as a coach, Unai Emery. He started in that club. Then I had an offer from Numancia. They were in La Liga at that time. Now they're in second division. And for me was the best contract, or the first academy contract that I signed at 18. I thought at that time that I was going to play, well, 1 season or 2 seasons and then move to the first team. I started university there. Okay. What happened at the end of the year? They kicked me out. So I didn't move to the reserve team, and I had to go. The reserve team were in third division, and I had to go to another third division. Okay, third division is semi-pro in Spain, so you get some money, but not for living. You don't get enough for living. Most of them, they don't train in the morning; they train in the evening after everyone leaves work. So I went there. I had a small injury in the knee. I had a meniscus, I think it's called in English. But then I recovered. I got to play, which is difficult when you leave academy and you move to senior football. It's difficult. But I was lucky that I have because at the beginning the first month were difficult, but then I had very good people inside the change room and they helped me a lot. The most experienced players, they helped me a lot. So we promote to second division B, and after that I had a chance to move to a second division B close to where I live, which is called La Muela. That's already professional football, and I started to combine university with pro football. We were training in the morning, normal salaries, decent salaries for Spain. Then I changed team to a better second division B called Andorra, and then during that season I finished university, and to be honest, I only did 10 good games at Andorra, but it was enough for me to sign for Leganés. Okay, so that was my move to a second division team in that time, prestigious team in Spain, and at the fifth training session, I broke my kneecap. That was a hard injury. I spent 8 months to recover. I wasn't mentally ready, to be honest, and it's true that in the club we didn't have any, how you call it, like psychologists, sports psychologists. We didn't have any, so a lot of support came from my family, but obviously they give me love, but they don't have the tools, the mental tools that I need to use to overcome the situation better. I finished that season playing only 4 games in Leganés, but then I was able to sign a 2-year contract with Real Zaragoza. There I had the worst injury that I had, that is a hole in the cartilage. I don't know the name in English, but it's the cartilage goes like every session it's more pain because you have a hole, and there is one, you can have surgery, but you cannot, if you have surgery, you cannot, they put an implant. I don't know if it is the same in over there in the US, but they put you an implant and you finish playing. So I decided to keep playing without having surgery, but I didn't list a lot. From 23rd, I spent those 2 years there, but then I moved to Eldense, which is a lower division from Real Zaragoza, second division B in this case, and then Cacereño. While I was at Real Zaragoza, while I had that big problem in my left knee, I started a residence program in Huesca, where we bring, it was in this academy that I started playing. I developed a residence program with international players that we select from everywhere. And then I also started to do tours and pre-season. This is where I met Marc-André a while ago, and then he took me to, also Mike Soup was there, and he took me to Ohio, and then this is how we connect with Beyond Pulse during a tour for coaches with Real Madrid that we developed, and that's basically all. At 22, I was in one of the best places in Spain to play football. At 23, also a good place, Real Zaragoza, and at 20, before turning 27, I quit because I couldn't handle, or I wasn't ready mentally to go down to lower divisions, and I also didn't look after myself properly during the injuries. So that's me. That's a little bit of me and my background. Okay.
That's perfect. Thank you, buddy. And obviously there's some really interesting and important concepts that you've obviously brought up there. that I'm sure we're kind of going to dive into throughout the conversation. And if it doesn't come up through you, I will make sure that I just directly ask you a question, because I think we've obviously spoken about the importance of psychology. I'm curious about the value of education to you, and blending. You've seen a lot of professional soccer players now that try to blend education with their career, especially in the youth academies, because obviously you're an example of somebody that sadly had to deal with an injury and it cut short a career. So just a few other things outside obviously the transition and the readiness to move from youth soccer to pro soccer. So if you want to take it away, Bud, with regards to the rest of the kind of the main part of the presentation, and like we said, we can engage in questions as and when they come our way.
Perfect. I'm gonna say it again. There we go. Okay, so this is a talk or a speech that we every season we do to our players. We renew it with the new data that we take every year from EPL, La Liga, Serie A. But this is a speech that we always do to our. It's about how difficult is to arrive, and the steps that most of them are gonna make, or they will have to make. Okay, so this is the average salary per player in English Premier League is nearly 3.5 million euros. Is the highest paid in the world. Then is La Liga with 2.5 million euros. Then Serie A 1.6, 1.5 Bundesliga, 1.1 League One. Okay, so we are just analyzing the European leagues. Okay, this is something that I think everyone knows, players, supporters, everyone knows that salaries are very high in the top leagues, because it's what the media talks about and what everyone says. But it's true that this is not the reality of football, or the people who understand how the industry works. This only happens in this case in these top leagues. But behind that, there are a lot of work and leagues that are more difficult to work with for young players. Okay, so this is I'm gonna explain a little bit how much is a point in La Liga. In English Premier League is a little bit more because of the TV rights. In Europe, all the clubs, the main income are TV rights. Okay, so it's a little bit. For example, in South America, it's more about selling young players. US, I think, is more also TV, but also about merchandising and ticketing, hospitality during the matches. In Europe, it's all about TV rights. Okay, so England with the EPL started making all these changes and having a big budget coming from the selling globally the TV rights, and it has arrived to a point that one point in La Liga is 1.2 million euros for a team. Okay. Also, the average, and this is already regarding the youth players, the average age in La Liga is 27.3, in Serie A 27.26, Premier League 27, Bundesliga 26, League One 26.3. Why is this? Obviously, because there are more information. Usually, each season trainings are better, or coaches has more information with GPS. With in your case, for example, with Youth Academy has Beyond Pulse, like a tool for them to understand if they are doing overtraining or if they are training properly to to the players. So there are more resources, and the life of a player is much longer than years ago. So we have players like 34, 35 competing at the highest level. Not only the cases of Ronaldo's, Lewandowski's, also not popular players as them, but that are playing at Sevilla, Espanyol, high teams or top teams, and they are 32, 33. Okay, all these high salaries, many resources that we have now in professional football, materials and human resources. The average age is higher every season, and results are more important than develop players for the future, are making the environment very competitive for young players. Okay, I said that results are more important than develop players for future, because at the end is not the difference between, for example, South America and Europe. South America maybe are or create players, one player who is 17 or 18, and maybe that player is not ready, but they put that player in the scenario to see if they can make money later with a transfer. In Europe, they want results right away. They cannot lose chances. That's why they send, and I think is a good movement, the one that the clubs are doing, that they send players on loan to lower leagues, because at the moment in the top teams they need performance right away. Okay. Stop me, Tom or Willow, if you want. Okay, but I keep going. Okay.
Yep, keep going, mate.
Ansu Fati. This is what we talk to our academy players. This is not the real case. Okay. 16 years old, arrived to Barca, one of the best teams in the world, and he started playing. His value goes from 0 to 25 million. This is not, in my opinion, this is not a good example for most of the players, okay? Because it can frustrate young players if they took Ansu Fati or Mbappe like examples, or in his time Rashford, because most of the careers in football are not like this. You are not playing Champions League at 16, 17, 18. Or at least you are not a normal or a frequent starting 11 in a team like Barca when you are 16 or 17 years old. Okay, so we put the more realistic examples. Okay, in this case we put players who has played with me. Jorge Miramon, he is at Levante, right back. He has played every game this season with Levante. And if we go to 2015-2016 season, he was at Lleida. So when he was 26, he was still in the third division, in the third league of Spain. And he arrived last season with Huesca. It was his first season in La Liga at the age of 29, 30. So that's an example. It's true that he grew up in a good academy, Real Zaragoza, then moved to Atletico Madrid. I played with him at Andorra, then he moved to Lleida, and I moved to Leganés, and then he came to Leganés. This is, in my opinion, and with the stats says that are a normal example of what is happening in the Spanish market right now, because we cannot make a player at 18, or it's difficult for them, but we cannot judge that with 18 a player is a product already made. Players can change and players improve during that transition from academy to professional football. It's like sometimes we want, I don't know, it's like you finish economy and the next day they put you to run a bank. It doesn't work like that. You need a step before you are CEO of a bank or director of a bank. So here in football, at the moment, or at least what is happening in Spain, is this. Like players now go more step by step, league through league. Third division, second division, and then La Liga.
Josete,
Yes.
I'm curious if you can go back to is this Jorge? Is that or
Jorge.
Jorge? Was he released? So from Zaragoza, and he moved to Madrid. There's no
He
more
was he
there.
was he was released at Atletico Madrid.
Okay, so because I think that's important for the players that will listen to this to understand that, and maybe we can touch upon it later, the ability to deal with that disappointment. He didn't say one soccer club, one football club didn't want.
I have Tom a huge example later, also
Perfect.
in this presentation, of a player who played with me that is a huge example for every player and is popular because of what happened with him.
Perfect.
This one is Aridane. Okay, Aridane, he grew up at Real Madrid. Okay, and this is also a very difficult case because he grew up in Valdebebas. Tom, you have been in Valdebebas. Valdebebas, they have everything, all the resources. The academy players has more resources than any player of even of La Liga, any first team player of La Liga. But then he was released from Real Madrid. Instead of going to a top academy, he went to play for his hometown academy, moved to Valladolid B team, and then third division with Alaves B team, and then he moved to Corralejo. Corralejo is in Canary Island, is in third division, one of the last places that you will go to play. But he is from Canary Island and he went to play there in third division, and he was already 24 years old at this time. He moved to Eldense. Here I play with him in second division B, okay? And then he made a good season and he signed for Granada. Granada sent him on loan to Cádiz because Granada owner Quique Pina had also Cádiz and Udinese. He had that triangle. It's a football agency. Now he sold Cádiz. From Cádiz, he moved to second division with Cádiz. Cádiz at that time was in second division B, and Osasuna signed him 2 years ago, and now he's playing in La Liga. He has arrived to La Liga at the age of 30. Okay, so that's another example of being at Real Madrid Academy when he's U19, at 24 being in one of the worst places, and we have to say it that way, in third division, and at 30 he's in La Liga. So that's another example for the players. And this one in particular, also because he's a close friend of mine, but this is the most beautiful story that I have heard. Lorca, he started playing Lorca Academy. Getafe signed him for the academy, for the B team, and they released him. So Getafe was in third division, and they decided not to count with him at the age of 20, in this case 23. He was 23. He went to play for his hometown, then second division here with me, and then he jumped to second division. From second division, here it doesn't say that, but he signed for Barça B. This one is the player that Barça signed him, and 6 hours later, Barça released him because they found tweets from years ago. I don't know if you have heard this story. They found tweets against Barça because he's a big fan of Real Madrid. So he signed in the morning, and in the afternoon he was out of Barça B team. Okay. Then the market was closed in Spain for him, so he had to go to Adelaida United in Australia. Then he came back to Granada B team. This is second division B. Okay. Then he signed for Murcia in second division B, and then jumped to Córdoba in second division. Okay. Made a huge season with Córdoba, and look who signed him. Getafe first team. And Getafe had to, at the end, they pay a total of 4.5 million. It doesn't say it here, but Getafe pay 4.5 million for a player that they released like 6 years before. So this is a huge story. And then he played for Getafe, and now he's playing at Valladolid.
I have a question, Josete. It seems like Sergi has bounced around a lot of clubs, and yes. I know from being in my younger days, I was definitely carried more of an ego, played up to the stereotype, was more stubborn, probably challenged managers at the wrong time, questioned things I shouldn't have questioned rather than working hard and focusing on developing myself. What are the reasons why he's moved around so many clubs and not really stayed at one for more than a full year? I mean, is he very open about that in why he believes he's moved around? And do you know and understand why that's happened?
To be honest, he was a very good player, okay? But it's true that mentally he wasn't stable until, it's sad to say, until 2014 when his father passed away. That I think he started to think more that he needed to change, because he was a very good player, but obviously you see that every time he was at young ages, he was changing class, which is not normal at young ages. And I think that's what changed him when his father passed away, because he didn't have he didn't have that. But many players, we know, and I think you agree with me, it's difficult because when you are in academy, you don't usually, or no one usually talk to you in terms, yes, they tell you what to eat and that you need to rest, everything, but they don't, or at least in my case, I didn't have anyone who guide me, okay, a soccer career is these are usually the salaries, it's gonna take you time. Think that in third division you are going to start training at 8 p.m. and you are going to share change room with players that doesn't want to be football players, or players that only go there to make that extra money, but they don't have in mind be professional, or players that already have been professional and they play just to keep playing. So no one explained you that, or at least no one has explained it to me. And it's hard and it's difficult to see psychologists in, yes, you see psychologists in top academies like Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid, Sevilla, Man United, Liverpool, but in academies, I don't know, for example, here, Numancia, I didn't have any psychologists. Cádiz, you don't have psychologists. And I think it's a very important figure. Each time or each season, I think they talk more about this, but it's true that it's not like, I don't know, when you go to the field and you improve your left foot, you easily see that it's gonna benefit you during the game, and so it's easy to see that if you improve that, you are gonna perform better. But it's difficult to see that if you train mentally, you are gonna play better, and that's what players need more, because at the end of U19, and if you watch, I don't know, youth league, UEFA Youth League, more or less all the teams and all the players are good players. You don't find bad players at U19. The difference is that most of them are not gonna jump straight to the first team, and they will go on loan. They need to know what to do, how to rest. When they are not playing, keep training hard, because usually when you have been at Real Madrid or at those places, it's obviously because you are a good player, or you are usually a player that play. But then football changes, and that's, in my opinion, that's the support that the players don't have, or it's difficult that they have grown up with that information.
Just to add on to that, I couldn't agree more. I believe in what you're saying, Josete, and even at some of the top clubs in the world, and Tom and I speak with somebody at New York Red Bull, and I have a friend over at LAFC here, and even, you know, people at Manchester United, there's there's a real problem sometimes with the transition from elite youth to professional environment, and it's not around ability. It's around, how do I navigate the dynamics of a first team dressing room? How do I speak to a senior professional who's been here for 12 years? How do I find a mentor within the locker room? Who's responsible for that duty of care to me as a 17, 18, 19-year-old? And then all the way down to, how do I communicate with the first team manager? When is it okay to ask the question why and challenge him if he's asking me to do something I haven't been taught to do yet? You know, how do I impress him in practice? What do I need to do? And it's almost, we're expected to know this, yet we're still kids in essence at 17, 18, 19. We're not mature.
That's reality. You have defined it perfectly. And in my opinion, that's the hardest part. Not the technical part, because I have said, obviously there are players who are better technically, others are better physically, others in terms of understanding the game. For example, when I went to England, they were physically much better than me. It's a different kind of football, and they are very good on that. I think I was I understand a little bit more the game. They risk more the ball. Here we risk less the ball. So you will have players that are more technical, others who are more physical, and at the end, all of them are good. If they are U19 and they are in an academy, all of them are good. But it's true, in my opinion, what defines a player, or what gives more opportunities to a player that is already a U19, U17 academy player, is the mental skills that he has.
Absolutely.
That's what I think. Obviously, then you have the examples of Mbappe that tell me how at 17 he has that power to compete in speed with players of the Champions League. Okay, that's genetic and also work, but that's something different. He's in a different level, and it's not a normal thing that at 17 you can compete physically with Champions League players and not even compete, be stronger than them in terms of powerful and speed.
Can I ask both of you? Obviously, Mark, you grew up in one of the most famous youth academies in the world, where the concept was, if you're good enough, you're old enough. But does good and talented mean ready? And what's the difference between emotional readiness and technical or tactical readiness? Because Josete, you're saying people, you weren't ready to deal with an injury. You weren't ready to deal with not being selected, or having to bounce around, or to earn your time. So you might be good enough as a footballer, but Willow, does talent mean emotional readiness?
No, I cleaned showers and toilets for 2 years as a 16-year-old playing for Manchester United, to teach me discipline, focus on the simple things, do the simple things well. Whether that was the right or the wrong thing to do, I can say that the one moment Sir Alex Ferguson ran his finger through the tiles and there was dust there and I hadn't done my job well, he gave me a choice. Either continue to do this the way you're doing it, and I'll come and check, and I won't be able to trust you in here. So therefore, how can I trust you on a field in front of 60,000 people? That's not adding a psychological layer of support. It's throwing down a challenge to me. There was no mechanism to support my choice. I was just, well, I want to play in his first team, so I better clean these showers and toilets. So it was almost authoritarian. It's, if you're not going to do this properly, you're not going to be out on a training field with the first team, nor are you going to play in my first team in front of 60,000 people. So there was certainly no psychological buffer or help to deal with challenges thrown at me at that time. And it was all the way from Eric Harrison in the youth teams to not so much Brian Kidd, but certainly Sir Alex Ferguson and Steve McLaren. there was no psychological safety for me as a player. I had to find that. And sometimes it's luck. Sometimes it's how you grow up and where you grow up, that you're a little bit more resilient and tougher. So I'm sure there were talented players across every level and every league that have been missed because they weren't supported psychologically and could have really excelled and been a phenomenal player in a first team somewhere. You know, there are unique cases, as Josete said, like Mbappe, who probably grew up in a tough neighborhood, came through the ranks, was naturally physically unbelievable. That's unique. Wayne Rooney's unique. That shouldn't be the standard for everybody else. You know, there's a lot of talented players out there who do need to understand how to navigate that jump from elite youth to professional first team. And right now, even the best professional clubs are still working on that.
So Josete, based on what Mark just said, what do you look for in a player that is technically ready, tactically ready, but importantly, emotionally ready, psychologically ready? What do you think coaches need to be looking at in order to understand whether or not somebody is ready to make that jump successfully?
It's difficult to define with one word, but I think 100% they need to be dedicated. They need to be resilient, because bad moments in football, usually you have more bad moments than good moments. But it's true that the good moments give you a lot of energy. But outside technical and tactical and also physical part, in my opinion, they need to be, first of all, respectful, dedicated, and have resilience, and people who want to learn and understand that football is a long career. But it's a long career because usually we say no. Football is I don't know, resistance, how you call it, like it's a long career, but it's not a long career only at the academy level. It's a long career in the transition, during the transition to senior football, and it's also a long career when you arrive to La Liga or to second division, to any professional league. And I think everyone in the football industry who are at the top level, every day they are open to change, to improve, because if not, football just move you away, because it changed so fast. Everything changed so fast. If you watch Premier League 5 years ago and you watch it now, the game has changed a lot. Everything, the facilities, human resources, everyone is changing, and you need to be open for changes, to have resilience when you have bad moments, overcome those situations.
And what would
that make you a player?
And for the benefit of anybody who doesn't quite understand what resilience would mean, could you give an example? So a player, maybe a youth player, doesn't get selected for the first team. And
for example, one example is Sergi Guardiola. He was at Getafe, beat him, and Getafe beat him, which is not the best beat team in Spain. Send him out. He could say, okay, I forget about football. I come here, I play in my hometown team, and I start to look for a job, and that's all. Or Aridane, when Real Madrid told him, if you are in Real Madrid and Real Madrid told you, we don't count with you, you can get frustrated and decide to stop football, for example. Those are cases that they have decided to fight, and at the end they have arrived to La Liga. Or the same thing with injuries. I think there is a huge example, and I love the I don't know if you know Rafinha. He's a midfielder of Celta de Vigo.
Yeah.
He's moving to Premier League next year. He's an example. He had ACL twice, same as his brother Thiago, who plays for Bayern Munich. And in the video they filmed, I think it's Netflix or Amazon Prime, make a report about everything, all the process that he had when he goes to the field, when he's injured that he cannot play, then he goes to the physio. He has a mentor, he has a coach who help him mentally. He has a chef at his house cooking for him. All that is important and help him to overcome that situation. Imagine, Tom, other players who are injured and they don't have the financial resources to overcome. I mean, they don't have a personal coach or they don't have a personal physiotherapist, a personal physical coach. He had all that. But it's also an example that, and now he's at a huge level again, 2 ACLs and being a key playing in La Liga. That's also a huge example.
So what can coaches do, either within their training environments or just the responsibility that they have for the players that they work with? So in a practice, how could they help develop resilience? And then off the field, what would you suggest coaches in top academies are doing with their players to help them develop the skills that you feel like you never got the chance to be taught?
Mm-hmm. Here, for example, in our academy, we do it a lot. We are lucky that we have a psychologist, and we do every Tuesday. We have a workshop in the residence, and they work from each month. They work in different themes. For example, one month they work in how important it is to rest. Other month they go with how important it is to eat properly, and they don't give you menus or examples that you have to eat. No, they put in this case Ruben, our psychologist, he put the players into the kitchen and they know how food needs to be prepared, and they know, because at the end, Tom, one player that we have here at U19, then he will go to play to, I don't know, go to Sevilla, and he will need to cook for himself. So all those kind of things, it's true that we do it outside the field because we have time with them, and also the city is very small, 55,000. They go walking to the training ground, 10 minutes walking. So it's different. We have the opportunity to do it that way. But for example, I love what Mark has said, because I remember that at Fulham I also had jobs to do. I remember that I was cleaning the boots of Healy, one striker that scored a hat-trick against Spain.
David Healy,
yeah. And then a crazy guy.
Mine, Josete. He's an ex-teammate of mine. Good guy. Crazy, but yes, good guy.
So I was cleaning his boots, and also one crazy guy called Jimmy Bullard.
He played.
Crazy guy.
He played for
me
as well. Yeah, he is crazy.
So yes, he's crazy, very, very crazy. But he was a good guy. He helped me, and I was cleaning the boots for them. And I think all those jobs give you responsibility. I think it's a little bit of, at the end. I've been in the US a lot, and it's difficult. It's difficult to educate. You need a lot. Parents are very important, and I think coaches will have to deal with the parents if they want to reinforce the message that they send.
So is it then, just listening to you speak and thinking about the US market a little more, residency programs are starting to become more popular, more common, with people being able to go and stay and live at the football club. But you mentioned parents, and obviously for America, normally if players don't go and sign professionally, they'll go to college. And when they're in college, they're by themselves, they're living away from home. So do you think it would be sensible for clubs to work with the parents to make sure that people have, like the players are responsible for sometimes cooking their own food, sometimes, you know, doing their own washing, sometimes, you know, cleaning. Just because you said you moved to London and you're away from your family, you have to do it. You know, you may move for a pro career, you're by yourself, you have to do it. Could it be that something as simple as that in a player's home environment would help them develop the skills that would support them to be successful on the field? Is that fair?
I think it will help a lot. I think it will help a lot, but also it's difficult because I think players over there, they don't have a lot of time. I don't know, they drive 1 hour to training, then 1 hour back. They are tired from the school, then they have to do homework, and it's difficult to find that line, that balance. Yes, but it's true that with the small jobs you can start to create, and also if parents are a good example and coaches are a good example, at the end most of the players will get the message, and also it will affect in their behavior and in the future. Also with videos, for example, we send many video resources now in these days. They are perfect. You can send videos, and it doesn't have to be about only football. For example, we send videos about one man who climbed mountains, and he died climbing a mountain, and that's because we wanted to give the message of how important is the team, and most of the thing was that they couldn't go down to a safe in the mountain, and with a team they rescue most of them. Only one couldn't come down, but it's try to send them message. But obviously if they are at home, family is one of the most important things. In my opinion, parents are the example of the sons in this case, and of the players, and also coaches has also that coaches are a very important figure in my perspective.
Yeah, and Willow, obviously you went and lived at Lilleshall and you were away. No, just, I know it's rolling back some years, but was there a correlation between the players that were able to be responsible, respectable, you know, independent, kind of off the field, and those, did it translate to success on the field? Like, can you know, or did it not? I'm just curious. We've never had that conversation.
It did. I mean, I moved away from home when I was 14, which meant I saw my mum and dad once a month. I left my friends, so I had to make a sacrifice. It didn't seem like a sacrifice because I loved the game. I aspired to be a professional footballer, and you know, I had good friends, but I was driven to want to do something and achieve something. So when we got together, I mean, you have your age group at 14 to 15, then you have your seniors. So there's already a culture embedded when you arrive, and it's the seniors that take on the responsibility of big brother in showing you what's expected. Yes, there's always a little bit of fun and games in how they challenge you. But this was my routine from 14 years old. A bell would ring at 6:30. I had to get up, go down 3 flights of stairs into the basement, and we had various jobs, from cleaning all the boots or making sure they were all clean, doing laundry, preparing the kit for training when we come back from school. That would take about 30 minutes, 45 minutes. Go upstairs, get a shower, put my uniform on, go down, eat breakfast, come back up, clean my teeth, and then get on a bus by 8:30. So that was every single day. Then we would come back from school a little early because we had to train. So our days were slightly shorter, 2:30, we would come home. We would train every single day as 14-year-olds. So you're building habit, but you're also building camaraderie. Now, we had Scousers, Londoners, lads from Newcastle, me from a little small town called Scunthorpe. So there were challenges in integrating. But one thing we always found was a commonality on the field. We wanted to win. We wanted to play together, all wanted to play together well as a team. We learned to support each other because every academy that would come and play us, we were considered the best 16 players in the country at that age. So every academy from United all the way up to Scotland and Celtic would come and want to kick the crap out of us and beat us. We were undefeated for 2 years. We won every single one of our international games barring one, and that was Germany. We beat them once in the Olympic Stadium in Berlin, and I think we lost. I think we played at Hoffenheim or somewhere like that. By the end of those 2 years, we were inseparable. We still didn't always like each other every day, but we would go to war for one another because we'd spent so many days, weeks, months, over 2 years, doing the right thing, being consistent, watching out for each other at school, pushing one another in practice, even to the point of arguing and maybe getting into a little bit of a heated scuffle. But all the while, that culture was building a mentality and a character and an attitude towards being successful, whether we were going to be professional players or just going into another industry. It gives you that drive, and it gives you the value on what you said, Josete, team. This is a team game, and I can't win a game on his own. And just one last quote. Xavi, one quote he made really stuck with me. And he said, I'm only able to showcase my talent and ability because when I receive the ball and look forward, I have runs being made and players dropping in and opportunities being created for me so I can use my technique to execute on a pass. Without them, I'm nothing. I can't showcase my ability. And that was a really powerful quote for me from one of the best midfielders that's ever played the game.
Players off the ball make the player on the ball look good.
Yep.
One more thing, Mark. I don't know if that happens to you. With the time and analyzing all the change room where I have been, I see that, I don't know if that happens in England or not, but for example, in Spain, you find more humble changing rooms at first team than at the reserves. I don't know if that happens to you. When I moved to Real Zaragoza, I was in the reserves, and we were a little bit with that ego. No, I play for the B team and I'm young. When I arrived to the first team change room, I don't know, everything for me was much more natural, normal, more comfortable environment for me. Because
do you think that's because people know how hard they've worked to get there? Do you think that's because they've had to suffer some disappointments? And when you're young, maybe, because here's a question. You've both been very talented young players that get a lot of praise, that have a lot of early success. And obviously those are the types of players that will be more likely to be signed as professionals and potentially be fast-tracked into first-team football. So when you're young and everybody is giving you praise and you think that you're untouchable, then is there a sense of naivety that you don't know how hard it can be? And maybe when you're 5 years in and you've not made a squad, or you've been dropped for 5 games, or you've been released from a club, you're more humble about where you are.
My counter to that, Tom, is I didn't receive praise all the way through from being 14, all the way through my professional career. You do receive praise, but as a young player, I was constantly told that was a great goal or that was a great performance, right, on to the next thing. Tomorrow's training, whether it was Keith Blunt, Eric Harrison, Steve McLaren, Mike Phelan, the gaffer, your praise was being selected for the next game. Your acknowledgement of your performance and your dedication to work was being picked in the first team at any level, in the academy, in the U14s, in the U19s, and then in the first team even more so. And then occasionally you would get a highlight from a manager saying, you do this really well, I want you to maintain that. But it's not constant praise.
Do you think that, though, and a counter to your counter, being you grew up in an environment that is probably different to 99% of others across the professional game, like that, you know, well done is powerful, but do you deserve a well done for doing what's expected of you? Do you think that there was a culture of Man United that kept your feet firmly on the ground? Because, you know,
it was the one place that was different from everywhere else. And to Josete's point, I have been in dressing rooms that are full of egos and mentalities like they've made it. You know, even at Middlesbrough, even at Doncaster, I suppose, and other clubs I played for. Josete, you're right. And I think when you reach a level of maturity and you step up, like you felt comfortable in Zaragoza's first team dressing room, it's no surprise that you're now a successful business owner. And although you may have felt you didn't deal so well with being injured and coming out of the game through a lack of access to a psychologist and help in that way, you still had those inbuilt characteristics and level of maturity that's helped you become successful now off the field. So I would say, Tom, yes, I was in a very privileged environment. But 99% of the players that I played with probably never even kicked a ball professionally once they'd left United at 18. So whatever it was, bit of luck, certainly I had a good work ethic. And I always seem to take criticism with a I'll prove you wrong mentality. And that can build stubbornness sometimes, which isn't a good thing, but it kept me moving forward. So I think getting that balance of giving players praise or highlighting what they do well is important, but it's more important to help them understand how doing that consistently will build success. You don't need me to tell you you're doing well all the time. Or Josete, or you as a coach, Tom, players don't need you to tell you they're doing well all the time. And if they do, there's probably an insecurity or something that they need to work on to help progress forward.
I think that is a bigger conversation for this generation.
Yeah.
And Josete, I'm not sure if it's similar in Spain, but I do feel like there is an expectation that just by doing what is expected of them, I deserve praise, or I deserve to be told I'm, because Mark, frankly, the culture that you grew up in, I don't think exists now.
No.
Anywhere near enough as it should. And I think for any of the players listening, it's a really important message, because for me, it's the coaches are responsible for the cultures that they create, and we're all responsible based off our behaviors for what we I guess for what we emphasize, right? Like, we know if we're going to give process related feedback that encourages, resiliency and dedication and sacrifice and grit and determination, versus we're going to praise outcome and a little bit of brilliance or somebody being technically superior at this point, I think the perception from players becomes very different on what they think good is, what they think desirable is. And I think that, Josete, maybe some of what you're speaking about, that ability to develop the grit and resiliency, is based on the type of feedback, Willow, that you got, that wasn't going to blow smoke. It wasn't going to make you feel like $1,000,000, because there was an acknowledgement that your feet had to stay grounded. Because if your ego got too big for you, then it wasn't ever going to work out. Based on Josete, you saying mentality, Willow, you say it all the time, mentality will define you, way more than any talent. And your humility to be part of a dressing room will define you, and your coachability will define you. So I think that the players have a responsibility to, as you've both said, to not need that immediate praise and affirmation and positive, and I don't want to say unnurturing environment. It's just a different perspective of, what they should expect, and expecting praise for doing your job, I don't think is the culture that coaches should be looking to create. But I do think it's the culture that's created all too often, at least here with, the upcoming generation.
Here is more or less the same. And that's the problem, that then when they jump from academies, it's not what they find.
Right.
And then is when all the problems start.
Right.
He didn't tell me that I did a good training session. and he didn't put me. I don't play because he doesn't like. Those are the messages that they interpret, because if we treat them like, okay, you are doing well done for a pass, for making a control, for a good first touch. If you are all the time giving them those messages, at the end, when they move to senior football, pro football, and they are not gonna get from the manager all the time those messages, they will start, their mind will start to think, and that's true. That's a problem that is happening over there, is happening here, is happening too, and I think it's all over the world, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. It's fascinating. We could talk about it all day. Josete, we've stolen you for an hour already, so I'm going to cut it there. Just be respectful of your time and everybody that's joined us, and having obviously days to carry on with. So before I wrap this up, could you share with the people listening now or later, where can they find more information about you? How can they contact you if they're interested in, learning more about the great work that you're doing with the international players and coaches, or at Huesca, where?
Should I share my email through the chat?
Email, Twitter, anything.
Okay. Share my email.
And we can certainly, we will do that as well. We'll make sure that on the review on Twitter, we post that out, or on YouTube. So from myself and Willow and obviously everybody on behalf of Team Beyond Pulse, thank you so much, my friend, for sharing your time with us today. Certainly a conversation I think that we will re-explore a number of times in the future. And definitely looking forward to when either we can welcome you back over here, or we can join you again in more sunny Spain.
Thank you so much. Thank you for everything, Tom, Mark.